has been appointed by the board to serve as administrator on an interim basis to replace Mr. Kevin Dooley, who has accepted a position with the CBRD. Mr. G is a CPA, and he comes to us with a wealth of experience, having served as treasury for the town of Tofino, and in a similar position with the village of Upula. Mr. G is presently retired and lives in Campbell River. He has years of experience in this type of work, and I am quite confident he will more than fulfill our needs until such a time that we can advertise this position and run a proper competition for it. So would you please join with me in welcoming Mr. G. The first order of business is the adoption of the agenda. I noticed that there's a couple of things here, and I would comment on that. I would like to move the correspondence section down to a section between 9 and 10. The reason for this is that we do have several letters to address, and I want to ensure that we get the business of the board out of the way before we get down to that. So if there are no objections to that from the board, can we do that? Okay, okay, thanks. And the one other thing that I noticed in number 4 there, I don't know where that came from, but protect our water group petition, I felt that was dealt with at the last meeting. Not completely? Okay. All right, well, we'll have to leave that on the agenda. So, Dr. Pelcher?
I was just reading that was, okay, it's regular and in camera, but no, it was, in what way, what was the outcome?
Well, there was, as I recall, you made a motion to form a committee to study getting together a water group petition.
Yeah, so there's more information that we can add to that, so I'd like to leave that on the agenda.
All right, we'll deal with that when we get to it, okay? All right, now here's another little bit of a glitch. You'll have to understand that we've had problems with our server. As a matter of fact, it crashed and burned, and so some information is missing. We're trying to, I think that we've got pretty much everything back online, but we do not have the minutes of the regular board meeting held on December 14th for adoption at this particular time. So what I am proposing is that those meetings the minutes of that meeting be circulated via email to the board. Is that acceptable? And then we can either approve it or not at that time. But this will have to be done another day. I'm sorry about that. It's one of those things. It's been a bad week. Okay.
Does that mean we bring the minutes again forward at the next board meeting?
Well,
after we've had a chance to review them?
No, we can just vote on the minutes. I mean, if there's a problem with the minutes, you can reply by email,
yeah.
And then we can argue over and fix it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? Is everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Okay.
I have to confess, it's my fault that the minutes are not there. They are done. They're sitting on my desk somewhere. Kevin did them before he left, so my apologies. It's a pretty big group.
Okay. So we'll do that approval by email. The next, number 4, business arising from regular or in-camera board meetings and reports. Okay, now number 8 is report on meeting with Ministry, Community, Sport, and Culture Development. I think as everyone knows by now, we had a meeting with the Ministry There was quite a contingent here from Victoria, including Deputy Minister Tara Paganello. I believe Gary Paget was there, and there was Jim Madison, sorry, and Brent Mueller, yes. Thanks very much. So it was a productive meeting. It was an in-camera meeting. However, I believe I can release what came out of that meeting without getting into the details. Hopefully we don't have a problem with that. The board? We're not going to get into the minute details because it was in camera. This meeting was productive, and as a result, the UBID board formally resolved to re-engage in a process to help Mr. James Madison facilitate a new water services agreement that will be of mutual benefit to all parties. This arrangement will, of course, have to have the approval of the CBRD and Vancouver Island Health Authority. Our new administrator, Mr. Martin G., was formally appointed to replace Mr. Duval at this meeting. Well, here's a little aside. Mr. Duval was presented with an inscribed desk set by myself on behalf of the board and thanked for his service to MOOT, which he did an excellent job for us. Mr. G is already in the process of preparing a report for the board for consideration that will take in several options and how we could proceed with an aforementioned agreement. Two things that did come out of this meeting is the August 31st VHA deadline, Vancouver Island Health Authority, for us to have a viable water infrastructure agreement. And the fact that whatever arrangement is reached, UBID will have to own the water system. The ministry was quite adamant in this regard, stating that it would be illegal for us not to do so. However, the clock is ticking on this issue, and failure to meet the VAD deadline can result in severe fines coming our way. So we have to get on this right away. So that's basically what we got from that report.
Peter, if I may, just a correction on that water. It was not for the water infrastructure agreement. It was for an approved construction plan for a water treatment plant.
Okay, very good, Jim. Thank you for that.
And further to that,
Can you use the mic, please?
Yeah, can you use the mic?
the role of the appointed facilitator is to facilitate water infrastructure agreement with the developer. However, moving forward on our commitments and obligations to VHA is a separate issue, and one which we must proceed on, whether there is a developer in the picture or not.
Yes, I agree with that.
And
we all agree.
yeah, well, and the construction permitting and the water treatment plant does not require CBRD approval. The CBRD has nothing to do with that. Okay.
That's an interesting point, Trustee Kelcher.
Yeah, it's an obligation through VHA. It's a separate thing completely from negotiating with the developer. So it's a really important point for the landowners to understand.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. Yes, I know that without the approval of VHA, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and we have an obligation, but even more importantly, we have an obligation to meet that, whether or not there is a developer hiding,
yes.
Hiding in the woods.
Understand that.
Yeah, so time is of the essence to move forward on the permitting for the construction on land that is owned by Union Bay, because of course we can't build it on land that isn't owned by Union Bay, sooner than later. And in addition to that, the facilitator acknowledged that the hydrology of Langley Lake does remain unclear. So there's a number of issues at play. So it's really important for the landowners to understand the distinction between those two things, the water treatment plant and negotiating with the developer.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you for pointing that out.
Can I have a point of clarification, Mr. Chairman? The points that you made from that meeting, the points that have been discussed, will they be
I'm sorry.
will they be considered?
You can't speak.
No.
No, question.
We'll have to leave that to a question period, sir.
Okay, no, thank you.
Okay.
They will be in camera.
Yeah, we'll have to leave that to a question period. All right, fair enough. Next, we go to this, and Trustee Calger, you want this left on the
Yes.
agenda? Protect our water group petition.
Yes, and it is arising out of the meeting that we had. I guess that's the, so,
Yeah.
can people hear me?
No,
Usually.
you need to put the mic closer.
That bench is, am I turning it over? So it's again arising out of the meeting with the minister.
It's not working on.
It's not on.
Hello?
Yes.
That's all we'll do.
That close. Maybe I should sing. No. I won't do that. So again, the point about the Protect Our Water Group petition was addressed in a minor way with the meeting with the ministry. And there was acknowledgement of the interest in the dissolution, dissolving of UBIT and transferring over to the CBRD. And they did make a point of saying that this interest over a long term is valid. So it's a valid thing to look at, and it's a valid question for a large group of landowners to present. And however, that the immediate concern is towards our water treatment requirements by health, which of course makes sense. In the meantime, though, we've had a large group of landowners who are very interested in finding out more information on that, the pros and the cons, the benefits and the liabilities, which are good questions. So they also added that dissolving, it is a voluntary process that an improvement district and a regional district enter into voluntarily and work on collaboratively with input from the community. So all that sounds quite reasonable. So it was good to have that confirmed by the ministry people. So on that note, I'm going to make a motion again to form a committee composed of interested landowners. And I'm willing to be the chair, unless there's another trustee who would like to do that, to look at the pros and cons, the benefits and liabilities of dissolving UBIT and transferring over to the CBRD, and that this committee would report their findings to the board.
Could you get on with the meeting, please?
Oh, that is,
No comments.
I beg your pardon, this is part of the meeting. So, I was just reading a motion, I was making a motion before I was interrupted, to again form a committee with input of landowners and the board to give feedback so that we can look at this question seriously. As was pointed out, it is a valid question.
Absolutely. Perhaps I could comment on that. We had, Trustee Calger, you made the same proposal basically at the last meeting. And we took a vote on it, and it was not, it did not carry, right?
No,
No.
that was before we had this information.
Yeah, what I would like to point out before we get to a motion, that may make a difference here, is that I think what a lot of people are unaware of is that we have a bylaw in place. I believe it was passed by the previous board in 2012, which provides for the transference of the water infrastructure system after the completion of phase 1 to the regional district. We have that as a bylaw.
I'm sorry, to the chair, for a point of order, we ask for a second for this motion before we discuss it, then we can discuss it.
Well, it's been turned down. The motion has been forwarded and turned down already. And point of order is you can't put the motion forward again. It's been turned down once already.
Excuse me, but I'd like to,
You're
my letter, if you dealt with my correspondence, you'd see what you're saying is wrong.
You're just going to have to.
No, look, we're not taking questions from the audience right now, or comments from the audience. We're trying to get something
We
resolved
were
here.
given new information by the ministry, which I'm making, who stated that the question is a valid question. So that is new information.
What is the new information?
It's in the minutes from the meeting with the ministry.
Well, the new information in the meeting from the ministry, actually, I purposely asked in our meeting, you weren't at our meeting, but well, it wasn't exactly the same, but anyway, Peter will back me on this, and Jim, I purposely asked about this petition and how valid it was and how we had to react to it. I was told that we had other more important things to address. It's a 2-year transition period at minimum. We've got to meet our deadlines now, and it's got nothing. The regional district can't come in and meet our deadlines. We have deadlines with penalties and fines. We do not need to deal with this now. And we already voted on this exact same motion, and actually the information from the meeting with the ministry tells us it's a very long-term process and that we don't need to start it now. We need to, and that's exactly what they told us. Take care of business and put this aside, and that's exactly what I believe in.
So the debate, again, it was a valid question. I'm putting forward a motion.
We
Is there a
voted on it
second?
already. You can't put a motion forward that's been voted on already.
Yes, I can.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay, hold it for a second. All right,
Martin?
there is
I don't have any knowledge of that.
there is a motion on the floor. Let's treat it this way, okay? Trustee Challenger has made a motion. We have discussed this motion, and the motion is that we that you will form a committee to study bringing forth a petition to the board to join the CBR.
No, that's not what I said at all.
Okay, would you mind?
First of all, could we have a seconder for the motion?
I'll second the motion for discussion.
Okay.
The motion was
Sorry,
to
yes.
form a committee, so there's a seconder now,
Yeah.
to form a committee to study the pros and cons of dissolving and over to the CBRD and reporting back to the board with that information for, at that point, for further discussion. That is completely different from what you just said.
It's not completely different, but there's more information.
Okay, let's vote.
Okay,
That was
so,
what I said.
so we have a motion forward, which you just expressed, seconded by trustee Elliott. So we'll now take a vote on the motion.
But can I say something before I make that vote?
Yes, we can.
You know, this whole thing, like we discussed before, was brought up in an in-camera meeting, and we didn't finish the discussion with it in the in-camera meeting, which we were going to return to, because there was issues about how it was presented and the legality of it and the whole works. And we were going to discuss it in in-camera meetings. We didn't finish that. And that's why I voted against this motion until we finish. I'd like to be able to talk to it in an in-camera meeting, to talk to about a little more, and then if you want to put a motion forward, that's fine. But originally, we talked about it in an in-camera meeting. I'd like to see it finished there. And
It
then,
doesn't need to be in it.
Yeah, that's your opinion, okay?
No,
Okay, let's vote.
Already spoken to,
okay.
the ministry
We're not-
spoke to the fact that it is a valid concern by the landowners,
Call a
which
vote.
deserves an answer.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We've had a discussion. We'll now take a vote on the motion. Those in favor of the motion, raise your hands.
To form a committee.
Form a committee.
That's all, just form a committee.
Okay, those not in favor of forming a committee, to study forming a committee, raise your hands. Okay, so it's a tie. I am
This is
going
just
to,
to form a committee.
yes, I understand that. However, I believe that we already have a framework in place that addresses this, as I just mentioned, with by dint of the previous bylaw. So I am voting against the motion, and the motion is not carried. Okay?
I don't know what bylaw you're referring to,
Are you-
Chair Jackson.
Okay, I will find it for you. I do not have the number right in my brain, but believe me, it is there because
And it
that,
says what? That you
well,
can't
it basically,
form a-
it basically allows transference of a water infrastructure system to the CBRD.
This is not what we're asking.
No, but it amounts to the same thing.
No, it doesn't.
You want to
No,
join
it
it?
doesn't. It's a completely
Okay.
different
Okay.
question.
Move
All
on.
right, we voted against it, so we'll have to move on. Okay? Now, the correspondence section here is, we've agreed that we'll move it down to between 9 and 10. Okay? Now, we're down to the reports here. So if we could get the administrator's report from Mr. G.
I've been in place for approximately two weeks. I'm having lots of fun.
As we all are.
I'm from Kettle River, so a couple of days I couldn't make it in due to snow, and our server died in the meantime, which is only a part excused by the ministry from the previous meeting. I have been charged with finding a new administrator for you for full-time, that's one of my tasks. Another task that has been made very clear to me is that I'm supposed to help do whatever I can to move the water filtration plant along. I've been spending the last couple of weeks reading a lot of studies and documents and overall pictures, and starting to dig in and find stuff for myself, because I'm finding that not always what I'm told is properly understood at the time. So there's quite a bit of work for me to do. I promised council that I'll be back to them within a relatively short time with all the information that I can kind of tied together with a bunch of options for it. So I'm looking at the finances, I'm looking at how we might pay for everything, I'm looking for sources of funding, I'm looking for all kinds of things. I have no decision or objective in mind. I'm not going anywhere with this other than to help the community make a decision. I don't make the decisions. Glad to be here.
We're glad.
We
are glad you're here.
Okay, that's your report?
Well, I guess, what did I write? Forgot.
We can move on. You have the financial report.
Do we usually read through that? I'm sorry.
Well, you could give us a thumbnail if you will.
Well, the thumbnail is it's only 1 month into the year, and there's not a lot of information yet. We haven't overspent at this point in anything, that's for sure. So we've got 12 months to go. Our budget is for 12 months. We've only got 1 month of information. There isn't really a lot of trending there to tell you what's going on. What's going to be important as we come along is what kind of capital numbers we're looking at for the water plant. There is a discussion of a fire truck, which will come later in the evening. There is a couple of other things that will be expensive items down the way. One of the current ones is the server had to be replaced immediately. Unfortunately, we didn't lose any data, which is good. It just took a while for them to get the unit to us. That was a little more money than we had anticipated, but it's in there and it's working well now. You don't know me. Do you have any questions for me about what I'm trying to do or what I think I'm doing or what my experience might be?
Well, we'll make an exception in this case.
Right, I'm sorry,
We don't
that's
take
not a
questions
question.
from the audience, but however, let's break with protocol here. If anybody has a
I have
question.
a question. How were you appointed? Was it the Liberal government that appointed you?
No, I am on the list with the Local Government Managers Association as a potential candidate for short-term work. Peter was referred to that, I'm not sure who, I think it was the ministry actually referred him to that list, and he contacted me directly.
Who contacted you
He
directly?
contacted me directly. And I came down, I met with him, I met with Kevin, and I also, at the in-camera meeting, they discussed whether or not I was the candidate they wanted to have working for them. So I have been approved by a small department board, unfortunately, through the trustees. I'm from a town, so we have councillors, you guys have trustees. Two of the trustees weren't available for that, but I have been confirmed through a through resolution.
Thank you.
Okay, fair enough. So we can move on here to report. So, move on here to reports, and I think we have some feel-good news for a change here. I hope we do anyway. Before we get to the fire marshal report, or the fire chief's reports, I want to read to you a staff memorandum that Chief Jackson compiled with our previous administrator, Mr. Duval. And this is a request to purchase a used fire engine from the town of Comox. This comes at a very timely, in a very timely manner for us. Mr. Jackson, or Chief Jackson goes on to say, or I should say, these are the words of Kevin. Just prior to the start of the 2016 holiday season, I received a proposal from Fire Chief Mark Jackson on behalf of Union Bay Fire Rescue, which is requesting authorization from the UBID Board of Trustees to acquire a used fire engine currently for sale by the town of Comox. The primary rationale for this purchase is to replace Union Bay Fire Rescue's existing engine 25, which is a gasoline-powered apparatus and which, on an exception basis, meets only the minimal criteria outlined in the existing fire underwriter surveys, FUS, insurance rating recognition of used or rebuilt fire apparatus. The anticipated cost for this purchase would be a maximum of $30,000. Now, this is inclusive of the purchase cost, vehicle and pump inspections, and all applicable taxes. The fire chief has advised the Comox Valley Regional District is also considering this engine for the newly minted Department of Mount Washington. As such, a decision on this matter is being sought prior to February the 1st. Well, we missed that date, 2017. So as to not potentially jeopardize such a beneficial acquisition. The town of Comox E33 fire engine is a 1995 Freightliner 4-door. It's a double cab, fully enclosed, and it has many advantages over Union Bay Fire Rescue's existing E25, the 1990 Ford 2-door, two-wheel drive. The proposed advantages of this acquisition for Union Bay Fire Rescue will retain in this existing E25 are as follows. It has a diesel-powered engine, which is more fuel efficient than gas and would eliminate our last gasoline-powered fire apparatus. It has an enclosed cab, which protects the members from the weather and would greatly enhance their safety in a serious motor vehicle incident or rollover. It has an Allison automatic transmission, which greatly improves the number of drivers capable of driving it. I believe that the main unit we have now is a manual shift. Very few current Union Bay Fire Rescue members are capable of driving E25 safely, as it is a 5-speed manual with a split axle. It has the automatic drop-down chains, something I never heard of. For snow, as E25 has none. Again, very few Union Bay Fire Rescue members have experience in manually applying chains for vehicles of this size. It can accommodate one additional firefighter on board. It has a 1,050 IGPM pump. Not quite sure what he means by that, but it's a bigger pump apparently. Well, E25's pump only put out 625 IGPM, which is barely enough to safely supply a structure fire with water for an interior attack on a house let alone a larger structure. 625 IGPM is also the minimum FUS requirement. It has larger compartments which are required to store modern equipment used in fighting fires. E25 has little in the way of useful compartments. It has the capability of using high volume hose, which would greatly reduce the amount of friction loss from a hydrant in areas of low or poor water pressure. It is equipped with air brakes, which are far more efficient and have much greater braking power.